5. Clerk?
We have 11 members in the room and 11 members voting in civic court.
All right, thank you, Clerk. Now please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation offered by Alder Stevens. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alder Stevens.
All right, thank you. Everybody can take a seat. I invited a person from our state assembly this evening. Ryan Spouty is the 5th generation of his family to live in Northeast Wisconsin. He has attended public school in grades K through 12 before earning his bachelor degree from Princeton University and his law degree from the University of Wisconsin Law. From 2022 to 2024, he worked as a prosecutor in the Brown County District Attorney's Office. His personal focus was always on prosecuting drunk drivers. Ryan was elected to the State Assembly last year. He serves on the Criminal Justice and Public Safety Committee and the Tourism Committee. I'd like to welcome State Assembly Person Spouty.
You can hold your applause. It's okay. Thank you, Alder Stevens. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Mayor. There are many people of faith here in this room tonight, but the business of this body is secular. So I've chosen a secular text for that reason. I've chosen a section of the Wisconsin State Constitution to share with you. Article 1, Section 22 of our state constitution. It's titled Maintenance of Free Government. It's very short, so I'm going to read it in full. The blessings of a free government can only be maintained by a firm adherence to justice, moderation, temperance, frugality, and virtue, and by frequent recurrence to fundamental principles. That's it. As you can tell, it's a little different. It's not about separation of powers, it's about values. And it's so short, I'm going to read it just one more time. The blessings of a free government can only be maintained by a firm adherence to justice, moderation, temperance, frugality, and virtue, and by frequent recurrence to fundamental principles. I hope those values will guide your decisions here tonight and every night. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Next, we have approval of the minutes. Alder Profit makes a motion to approve the minutes from May 20th, 2025. It is seconded by Alder Jolie. Any changes there? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The minutes are approved. Approval of the agenda. Alder Johnson makes a motion to approve, seconded by Alder Hinkfist. Any changes there? Seeing none, all in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The agenda has been approved. Report by the mayor. We have a few items to get to on tonight's agenda, so I will keep it brief, but want to extend my congratulations to both of the appointments, both Ms. Justin and Ms. Cochart for Director of Public Works and our City Attorney, respectively. I think many of you know both of them, know the quality of their work and their qualifications, and so really hoping that the entirety of our council will be supportive of them this evening, and obviously very appreciative to both of them being willing to step up and serve the city. So, and then also we've got an MOU on the agenda related to the coal piles relocation effort. The county board, as I think all of you probably know, took a very positive step last Thursday to approve a tentative agreement or term sheet rather between C. Rice and the county. The city's involved in that agreement to the extent that we have proposed to contribute up to $2.2 million to facilitate the relocation of C. Rice and to move those coal piles out of our near downtown. So as many of us have said for many years, this would really be transformational for us as a community. Really appreciative to the county and C. Rice for coming to terms on that. Obviously thankful to Governor Evers and his team, specifically Kathy Blumenfeld from the Department of Administration for allocating the lion's share of the resources that are being used for this purpose. And so I think the stars have really aligned in this case. As I said, we got that positive vote, unanimous vote actually, from our county board last Thursday. And so asking for your support this evening for that MOU. With that, we will move along to announcements from our council. Alder Eck.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so I am thrilled to share that Alder Grant and I successfully requested $20,000 from the Brown County Safety Committee several months ago to support a vital undercover sex trafficking task force or human trafficking task force operation up to and during the NFL draft. This funding was approved by the committee and the full board of supervisors, marking a significant step in our fight against human trafficking in our community. The task force, which included the Green Bay Police Department, Brown County Sheriff's Department, Brown County Health Department, FBI, the Department of Homeland Security, DCI, and our City Inspection Department, made impactful strides. And here are some key achievements. They arrested 2 men for solicitation of prostitution, recovered 3 victims of sex trafficking, and connected them to Awaken to provide them with resources to help them get out of trafficking. Conducted compliance checks on 16 licensed spas in Green Bay, resulting in citations for several establishments. Thank you to Brown County Safety Committee, with a huge thank you to Chairman Andy Nicholson for allowing us to make the ask, and thank you to the Brown County Board of Supervisors for the final approval on allocating the funds. And thank you to all the agencies involved for your hard work and dedication. A special thank you to Commander Semer Tabasca and Lieutenant Jason Allen of the Green Bay Police Department for helping to lead the charge on this operation. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Alder. Thanks for that work. Yes, Alder Morgan.
Much to the chagrin of my family, I spend too much time on Facebook, but I spotted something the last couple of weeks that I thought was pretty neat and something that I think we all should be thankful for. Our local reserve unit has just been deployed again. I was watching a video that Johnny Rodriguez posted. He's a proud grandfather of Johnny Rodriguez, also that graduated from West High School in 2024. He and his unit are headed down to Texas, I think it is, some warm weather to learn how to get used to that climate, and they'll be going overseas to do what they can for us and the people that the U.S. wants to help. So I want to say at this time, I hope this unit has a safe deployment. Everyone comes home safe, and please Godspeed.
Thanks, Morgan. Alder Morgan. Others, Alder DeLee and then Alder Hinkfist.
I know I'm the type of person that always has to put stuff on my calendar early, so I wanted to get it out there now. But the Murphy Park Neighborhood Association, with support from the Park and Rec Department, is putting on Pickle Fest at Murphy Park at the new pickleball fields that got put up last year. It's August 9th from 9 to 6. There's going to be food trucks, live music. You can learn to play pickleball. Also, there will be a pickleball tournament. And in the words of the previous Alder, Mark Stoyer, it's a big dill.
That it is. You looking for a teammate, Alder?
No.
Okay, you're not going to be participating? Okay, well, let me know if you change your mind.
Sounds good.
Alder Hinkfist?
Yes, on behalf of myself and the entire council, I want to thank you, Mayor Brian, or Alder Johnson, Alder Galvin, for all the work that you did on moving the coal piles. And maybe there was other people on the council that were also involved in those meetings. I just want to thank you all for continuing to push this, and you made it happen. So it's been a long time in coming. Thank you.
Well, and just to reiterate what you were saying, Alder Hinkfist, special thanks to Alder Johnson and Alder Galvin, who participated in some of the negotiating sessions near the end there, up until really the 11th hour. And so I think it was really helpful to have both of them involved in some of those discussions. So thank you for those comments. Any others under announcements? All right, seeing none, we will move along to appointments. There has a motion been made by Alder Profit to approve the new appointments, seconded by Alder Stevens. Any discussion there? Seeing none, all in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the appointments are approved. Congratulations to both. Next, reappointments. Motion to approve made by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder DeLee. Any discussion there? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it, and the reappointment is made. Ordinance is second reading for adoption. A motion has been made to suspend the rules by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder DeLee. All in favor will say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it, the rules are suspended. Motion to adopt made by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder DeLee. Any discussion here? Seeing none, we will use the board. And those are adopted unanimously. Next up is report of the Improvement and Services Committee. Whoa. Motion made by everybody. Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Eck. Any items here to be handled separately? Hearing none, all in favor will say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved. Protection and Policy Committee. Motion to approve made by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Prophet. Items here to be handled separately? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the report will signify by saying aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved. Next up, we have the report of the Green Bay Police Department granting operator licenses. Okay. Defaults to occur. Alder Johnson makes a motion to reconsider the report of the Protection and Policy Committee, seconded by Alder Galvin. All in favor say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it. It's been reconsidered, so that report is before us.
Motion to approve the balance of the report except item 6.
Alder Johnson makes a motion to approve the report with the exception of item 6. Is there a second for that? Seconded by Alder Galvin. Discussion. All in favor will say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved with the exception of item 6. A motion there. Motion to approve made by Alder Prophet and seconded by Alder Stevens. All in favor will signify by saying aye.
Just point of order, Mayor. Does everybody know what we're talking about here? Because this came out of committee with no recommendation. Okay.
So this has been a motion. Yep. Motion to approve. That was seconded. All in favor said aye. And so we are on again to the Green Bay Police Department granting operator licenses. Motion to approve made by Alder Prophet, seconded by Alder Stevens. Any abstentions or names to be handled separately? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it, and that report has been approved. Next up is N, report of the Green Bay Police Department recommending massage establishment license non-renewal notices. Just before we get to that, I don't know, Attorney Cochard, if you just want to give some guidance to our council.
Yes, so as this is a new process, first year, we're just completing the first year, going into the second year of licensing. This request, which is a first time on the agenda, is just approval to send out that notice. So the ordinance requires staff to make a recommendation because the granting or denial of licenses, that authority lies with council only. So this is staff recommendations that will then, if approved, send out an official notice that says there's an opportunity to request a hearing, and then we would proceed to a quasi judicial hearing if that person so elects to do so. Again, just permission at this point to send out a notice, but it will be a notice that the city's intent is to non-renew.
And just to add, I think we want to be careful not to prejudice what
Yes.
what might
Thank
occur after the fact with a quasi judicial hearing. So people should just be very judicious with what they say at this stage. Alder Eck. Alder Eck makes a motion to approve, seconded by Alder Stevens. Any items to be handled separately here? None. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed nay. The ayes have it, and that report has been approved. Next up is a report of the clerk recommending alcohol license non-renewal notices.
Take them up separately, Mayor.
We can go to one first. So item 1 is to deny a 25-26 liquor license renewal for 231 North Broadway, Stage 1. Alder Profit makes a motion to open the floor, seconded by Alder Johnson. All in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the floor is open. So if there's anyone here who'd like to speak to that item 1, just approach the podium, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes to address the council.
Thank you. My name is Alexander Graziano. I'm the owner of Stage 1, address 231 North Broadway. Thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of my establishment, Stage 1. As I understand, there's little that I'm able to say or do to avoid denial tonight here for our liquor license. If that is the case from the start, I'd like to make known that we would appeal that decision, if for no other reason than to publicly make known our side of the story, one which we believe highlights a pattern in the city of shutting down establishments deemed to serve a demographic that the city seems to view as a problem. Throughout the course of the discussions that follow today, we would like to prove that shutting down another establishment such as ours is a short-term solution to what is clearly a long-standing struggle. The struggle being providing forms of entertainment representative of all our community members, but in a manner that keeps all members of the public safe and free from harm. It was brought to my attention that a member of the police department stated they have never had as many meetings with an establishment or a bar owner that they have had with myself and with those around me. At the time, this comment was made to be a negative, when from another perspective, I believe it could be seen as a positive. It could be seen as an extreme willingness to become an effective 50% partner in a relationship that is so critical to the community and especially to business owners, particularly bar owners. I don't know about any of you, I can confirm for myself, but I would ask that if you reflect on any relationship you have in your life, whether personal, professional, or a previous one, ask yourself if it's safe to say that two of the arguably most important things in a relationship are the communication and the trust, both of which do not come overnight, and both of which do not thrive when both parties are not equally committed. The many conversations have come from a desire to build that trust and that communication, both of which had been broken in this relationship by both parties at some point or another. These are not issues I intend to speak on tonight here, but I will say this. I believe we have an opportunity to develop a relationship here that could change the narrative that is strongly believed among many. There's an unwillingness in Green Bay to allow for new voices to be heard and be represented, not just in the music and the crowds that gather in establishments, but in meetings such as this. This is not just an issue related to my bar or to the bar scene in general. This is an issue that extends into every part of our community and communities across the country, which is why I believe strongly that this is a necessary step forward for our community and for us as an establishment. If we are able to prove we can come out of this with stronger relationships that keep us moving forward and keep the opportunities available to all of those who are here. I'm not here to deny any of the information that was brought forth by the Green Bay Police Department in their recommendation, nor am I here to deny any shortcomings we may have had as a business which could have ever led to issues highlighted in any of the reports. I will address a few quick points from the review itself, and then I'll encourage any questions to be asked. Number one being, there are quite a few numbers on this list, some of which I don't believe should have been on there, such as number 8. It's a nuisance report that was initiated. So at that time, I was informed by my district officer that that report had a list of police calls. They submitted that report to the building owner. Many of those calls were noise complaints and were crime prevention calls. So us having called, which was one of the things that came up as part of our abatement process that we were not doing enough of, which was being proactive in our communication. So since then, I believe that it can be spoken that we have communicated a lot more proactively with issues, which would lead me to mention the number 17.
Sure.
So
Your 3 minutes have expired, so if you could just wrap things up.
Okay, then I won't speak to any more of the issues that were highlighted in the report, because obviously this report is what all of you are going to base your vote on today. But I would ask that if there's one thing today, rather than proceeding with a denial, I would ask for the chance to show that we are continuing to take as many steps as possible to reduce and eliminate the issues that our establishment has seen. And instead of distracting our efforts on fighting the appeal, we could instead prove that we are willing to go to any length necessary to be on the forefront of writing a new narrative here that proves our city, our police department, and most importantly, the members of our public community are determined to see the city continue progressing in a positive way with opportunities, representation, and entertainment for all of those who are here. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for your testimony. Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else on this item?
Hi, I work at Stage One. I've been working there for a while now.
Sir, if you could just state your name and address for us.
My name and address.
Yep.
My name is Pierre Ashley. My address is 1345 McCormick. And I just want to say personally that I pride myself in making sure everybody's safe there. I've been doing security for about 15 years in many bars, from Milwaukee all the way up into Green Bay. And a lot of the issues that we do have there and a lot of the other bars I worked at, they kind of they don't really, they shun away from them. Me myself being part of a urban culture, and going to establishments out here, sometimes I'm not welcomed. People pride themselves at coming in Stage One. They like the entertainment, but more importantly, we haven't been through a trial period of probation, or I just personally would like to do something where we work together to make sure, because my job is to keep everyone safe, and that's all I want to do, and let people have entertainment. People say they love coming here because they're accepted and they like the music. Whatever we got to do just so people have somewhere to go, just as far as the different kind of people we have here, because it's important to have somewhere for them to go. And I just want to work with you guys to make sure we can have that for the community, because it's very important. I know the urban culture it's not like a huge thing that's accepted here, but it's here. It's not going anywhere. And I just think we all need to come together to make some type of safe environment that, I know it's possible. I really do. I appreciate the time.
Thanks for your testimony, sir. Anyone else?
Hello, name's Caleb Robertson, 1508 Western Ave. I just want to say that I've been working at Stage One since it's been Stage One. And I just want to say that it's a strong, held together family. What I will say is we have made our mistakes. It's not always the easiest. But just it's been a spot not only for entertainment on the music front, but also on the comedy front. As myself, I'm a stand-up comedian, and it has not only helped me personally, but it's helped through our events and through our shows. We have helped other comedians in the Green Bay area come together. And Stage One has helped so much so that we now have, I believe, 3 or 4 more places to do comedy in Green Bay. So I just want to say Stage One is good. And I get it, we all make mistakes, but, I'd like to say that I'm pro Stage One. Any questions?
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Are comments allowed online?
Yes, we have one more in person, and then we'll go to online, sir.
My name is Damian Dorn, 1078 Roscoe Street here in Green Bay. I've been in this community since 1989, and my experience in this community is every time there's an establishment that provides entertainment for a culture that is not originated here, that's moved here from other places, it is met with resistance. And I do know Alex. I've had a lot of conversations with Alex, and I've offered my participation with helping and assisting with keeping his environment and establishment safe. And I really believe that it's important for our community to have a safe space where they can go and entertain as a former entertainer, and be able to enjoy entertainment that we enjoy as a culture. And whatever had happened in the past, we can build upon that and make a bigger, better, stronger community together, as we are all part of this community together. Thanks.
Thanks for your testimony. All right, we can go online.
Hello, this is Robert Graziano. I'm co-owner of Stage One as well. And
your address. Sorry to interrupt. Your address, sir.
Muskego, Wisconsin.
Go ahead.
And I just want to mention that Stage One is more than just a bar. For those of you that haven't been to the establishment, we host weddings, bridal showers, graduations, birthday parties. Just had a very nice send-off for someone going off to the Navy. So we've hosted country music, R&B music, comedy shows, a variety, and that is the appeal here, trying to appeal to a very diverse set of people and diverse set of opportunities. And I am in fully support of what's going on up in Green Bay. I spend as much time as I can up there. I was up there for the entire draft weekend. I'm up there. I was just up there last week as well. And I apologize, I would be in person today, but I'm literally dealing with a C5 nerve impingement that I have to see a surgeon for tomorrow. And I'm having difficulty sitting up and talking. But I just want to tell you that I'd like to consider appeal in this situation as well. And if there's any questions for me, I would welcome them.
All right. Thanks for your testimony, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else online? Anyone else in the room would like to speak to this? Seeing none. Motion to close the floor made by Alder Johnson, seconded by Alder Jolie. All in favor say aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it. The floor is closed. Alder Johnson.
I guess
Was it Alder Crawford that made the motion?
Sorry, I don't think there is a motion. I think that's right. We split it.
Yep.
So staff kind of said something that now has me scratching my head, which was we don't want to talk about this because we want to avoid conflict with a potential appeal. But I think the point of folks showing up here today is that they want to avoid having to appeal if this is approved. So if I could just have maybe legal, maybe give us some boundaries, I guess, or borders around what we can talk about or not talk about.
So this is the same process I described before related to Chapter 10. This is Chapter 4. Again, granting or denying or revoking alcohol licenses lies with council. So again, this is a staff recommendation, which is what's prescribed in ordinance, to then submit the notice. And again, the notice provides an opportunity to have a hearing where we go through a structured process with a set amount of time, documents submitted by both sides. Again, you've been through a quasi-judicial proceeding. So I would say to some extent, if there's a process in terms of like actual procedure that you want to talk about, that would be acceptable. I would suggest maybe not going into the details of an argument about whether something actually happened or not happening. For the most part, this is police department records that were summarized in a memo, and I'm sure the chief could speak to that more. But I would sort of keep the discussion maybe to procedural aspects of it as opposed to the substance of the allegations, because those are most appropriate for a hearing that would, if appealed, would be scheduled likely at the next council meeting.
Okay, that makes sense. Attorney Coachart and not interim attorney. So,
that's right.
Either one's fine.
So just a question for Chief then, because somebody referenced it, and I guess I'm not, we don't oftentimes, see these stipulation agreements, but specifically, not only what's contained in them, but also a comment was made about being put on probation. Is that something that typically happens with a stipulation agreement?
It's almost the same thing. The stipulation agreement is something that we enter into with establishments when we have issues, and it's designed in a way that if the establishment follows the terms of the agreement, then that should address whatever the underlying issues are. It would serve really a similar purpose. Attorney Coachart could probably speak more to if there's anything in the city code that provides for a probationary period or something like that. I would suggest that we want to stick to the city's process for dealing with these, because we need to be consistent with all establishments where we identify issues like this and where we get into this situation.
Is a stipulation agreement, is that set in place for a defined period of time? Does it ever expire?
Oh, we enter into these with every bar, and it's a permanent set of expectations. But if the establishment is complying with the terms of the stipulation agreement, then the idea is these conditions are designed and intended to prevent crime and disorder and neighborhood livability issues that arise around alcohol establishments.
So can a stipulation agreement look different from one venue to the next?
Chief, I think there's a misunderstanding here, Chief. Brian's talking about the bar plan stipulation agreement that every bar has to fill out prior to their license being granted.
after that, there could be things that occur where there could be other stipulations added. But the stipulation violations here are stipulations that every bar in Green Bay have to agree to before they're allowed to be open.
Yeah, I apologize for not
Mm-hmm.
making that distinction clear.
Okay, yeah, and I'm just referencing the report we have here, right? When it says violation of stipulation. So what I'm hearing from Alder Galvin is that these violations are related to the agreement that every bar enters into.
Yes.
Okay. And so when you mentioned, Chief, that there's sort of a probationary period, that would really more so refer to when a modification is made?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
And was there a modification made to this agreement?
I don't believe so.
Okay. So really he's operating off the same stipulation as every other bar when he first applied.
Correct.
Okay.
Just what I would recommend is that whatever we do, that it's consistent with the city's rules for these things, and that we're consistent across other establishments. Is, you know, just like when we make these evaluations and we make our recommendations to you as the decision makers, we try to be consistent so that we're not applying different standards, or we don't have a different program for similarly situated individuals.
Yeah, for sure. And that makes sense. And like I said, we don't see these, right? Alder Galvin's at an advantage here, former police officer having been involved in that. And then I just want to confirm one final thing here, looking under the citations. Obviously, there was one issued April 24th. There was a guilty April 11th, 25, April 26th, 25. Are those still pending? So those have not been adjudicated?
Yes, that's correct.
And we're going to check here.
I think so, unless it was in the last day or two.
We'll have to look that up, and we can let you know here in a minute.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know right off the top of my head what the status is of those. Which line items are those? Is that?
It's right at the end, where it lists citations from City of Green Bay Municipal Court.
Okay.
Other questions?
Please.
Staff while Chief looks that up. Alder DeLee?
If you go down to the police department meetings with stage one and you look at some of the dates, like scheduled meeting with Alex at Shawano County Community Policing Center, there's a couple of them in a row. Are those meetings involving incidences that wanted to be discussed at that happened at stage one, or are those involving like plan of assistance meetings to improve the situation?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't quite catch all of it.
Sure. So there's a series of meetings that were set up. If you scroll down in the report on scheduled meeting, it's line item 678. Alex borrowed a light standard at one point. Those meetings that are scheduled, are those meetings that are like plan of assistance meetings to establish like how we can improve the situation, or are those meetings to discuss issues that have happened at stage one?
It's both. We would schedule meetings to try to overcome issues that are happening. Sometimes they would ask for meetings. We would suggest things. That's what the light standards came from. So, yes, both.
Okay.
Alder Galvin.
I have a question for Attorney Kosher. As I understand it, we can't get into the real meat of this situation without potentially tainting a future quasi-judicial hearing. So my understanding is we have to kind of base our decision on what we've heard from the members of the public, the owner, the employees, and what we see in this report. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Because again, it is to send out a notice to set in motion a more formal process to hear. And just for clarification, the establishment does continue to operate during that process if they appeal. So again, it's a notice, which is important to set sort of a formal process in motion.
Okay, so and that's what I was going to ask you. If we do deny the license, he's allowed to continue operating until it's adjudicated.
So technically, if this was the recommendation for non-renewal was approved. A letter will come out very shortly from the city, and it will say that the owner applicant has 10 days to appeal. And once that's received, we would put that on likely on the next council agenda. And once that appeal is received, it would pause any process for the establishment to shut down. In this case, I don't, because we're ending the licensing year, but they would get to continue to operate until the matter was fully resolved.
All right. Thanks so much.
Chief Davis and then Alder Hutchison.
To your question, what's reflected in our report is still accurate. These last two charges here are still pending. And there's the one in April 21st of 2024 with a guilty.
Alder Hutchison.
So that's still accurate.
Okay. Question for the city attorney. If this goes forward, if it's denied and it goes forward, can the owner still enter negotiations with the police department to further any desires of the police department as things go forward? I mean, is there still that ability to communicate and make things right in a sense?
Yes, absolutely. I think most of the time, I think compliance is the goal. I don't want to overspeak for the police department, but there's certainly no prohibition on speaking or communicating with the licensee. I think for the most part, that would be encouraged during the process. Certainly not when we get to the hearing itself,
Right.
during that time frame, but until then.
Okay, and then to the police department, based on what you heard tonight, has your recommendation changed?
No, it hasn't. I'd certainly appreciate the comments, and but what we look at when we make these recommendations to you as the decision maker is the documented history and whether or not issues have been meaningfully addressed. And our analysis in this case at this point is that they haven't. Again, I would echo Attorney Kochart. Would be happy to have discussions and see what we can come up with. We're always willing to do that.
Okay, I'd like to move for approval of the denial.
Okay. Alder Hutchison makes a motion to approve that denial, seconded by Alder Morgan. On that motion from council, discussion. Alder Galvin.
Thank you, Your Honor. As it was mentioned before, I have some prior history with the police department, and my history goes back to 1980. Looking at this list of stipulation violations and incidents, it's this is pretty extensive, even based on my career in the pre-21 drinking era of 18-year-olds. There's serious incidents that took place here, and like the owner said, some of it was out of his control, and that may very well be. But the responsibility still rests on him. This is just like if I had a party at my house, I'm responsible for what takes place there. And unfortunately, in this case, he is the one that's responsible. I'm going to vote to deny the license. But if he does decide to appeal it, I look forward to him presenting his case so we can see exactly what the facts are as he sees them. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Any other comments, Alder Morgan?
Years ago, I've actually attended bar. I was a manager of a bar for a couple of years. I bounced at bars for several years till I went full-time being a policeman. And we've got 8 stipulation violations, 8 disturbances, 1 nuisance. The bars I worked at, if they had that kind of a record, the bosses would have fired us. So I agree with the other alderman that this is a little bit too much. If they want to appeal and things are found that they can somehow change it, I will welcome the appeal, but I definitely will vote to deny this.
Thanks, Alder. Anything else from council? All right, seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor will say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that motion succeeds to deny that liquor license. Next up is item 2, to deny a 2025-26 liquor license renewal for 700 Bodart Street, Jamrock. Entertain a motion there.
Make a motion to open the floor to hear from interested parties.
Second. Alder Johnson makes a motion to open the floor, seconded by Alder Galvin. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Floor is open.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ricardo Neal, and I'm at 700 Millard Street, the business location, and my address is 721 Eliza Street, Green Bay, Wisconsin. Last year, I was here defending myself, just as I am today, and you guys gave me a chance. The police department recommended an abatement plan that I completed and abide by. This reasoning for them trying to take my liquor license away is because of an incident that I had got into a year ago. The case is still pending. My lawyer was ill for a long time and he passed away. Rest his soul. So I finally got a lawyer, and we had our first hearing on Monday. Our final conference is coming up on next month, on the 26th. So I received a copy of the complaint for what the police department had sent out, and it's the same thing from last year. I have not had any issues, and I abide by all the recommendations that I've suggested. The police department had agreed to. It's been quiet over there, they would say. So I'm asking for another chance to continue providing for my family. With the case, as far as I understand, it's looking good in my favor. You never know yet still, though. So I'm just pushing on and hoping for the best. As far as I know, they have dropped some of the charges. So...
Thank you, sir, for your
Any
testimony.
questions?
Any questions?
It's still open, yes. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, Alder Morgan.
Have you had any other contact with police regarding your?
I have not had any problems at the bar, neither in my personal life, I should say.
Alder Hutchison.
I'm sorry. Has the bar been active for the last year?
It's been open, yes.
It's been open. Okay, and no incidences
A
of record?
couple of I had a situation outside where I had to call the cops, but nothing for the establishment itself
Okay.
that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
For him. All right. Anyone else on this item? Motion to close the floor made by Alder Johnson, seconded by Alder Galvin. All in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The floor is closed. Alder Galvin.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a question for Attorney Koshart. Attorney Koshart, this is somewhat similar to what I asked before with the last item. If we were to deny the license, if we were to deny the license, would he be allowed, and he appealed, would he be allowed to stay open until his court case is adjudicated? And at that time, we can move forward with a revocation hearing if he's found guilty.
Are you referring to Are you referring to the circuit court case?
Yes.
So the circuit court case is really on a separate timeline. So I would say in terms of staying open, it's really our administrative proceeding. So we would send the notice out and have a hearing, and then perhaps the information related to that case would be considered. But I think the police department's memo talks about the activity and the situation and less about a potential conviction on that one. And I know it's probably frustrating because the case has been pending for so long, but again, the memo specifies just the activity, the call, the circumstances, as opposed to an actual, conviction on that. But they would be, could continue operating until our matter is fully resolved. But I wouldn't necessarily suggest that we could hold it to an unknown date and time by which that case was resolved.
Okay. If his license was to be approved and down the road he was convicted of what he's charged with, could the police department initiate a revocation process?
So I would say again that I think you have to consider the activity when you look at chapter 4. It doesn't necessarily talk about a conviction, although the situation is really the circumstances, what happened, what the owner did or didn't do in that process is really what the I think from my perspective of reading the memo, the police department's basing its recommendation on. So it wouldn't have to be a conviction. Certainly, a revocation could come down the road at any time for a variety of reasons, as long as that complaint was filed to start a revocation.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Alder Morgan.
I would like to ask either the chief or the two officers here that collect some of this information for us if they have any input they'd like to give us on this.
Just briefly, I mean, our recommendation in writing, I think, speaks for itself. The issue is, what is alleged here and what our observations are when you can see the evidence that we based our conclusion on. Is some pretty concerning behavior for a licensed establishment. To put this in a little context, out of 276 total applications, there are only 2 that we made this recommendation for. And so we take this very seriously, but and we're dispassionate and we're objective in these recommendations. And with behavior as is outlined here in our documentation, it's really hard for me in good conscience, with all due respect to our business owners and their patrons, to recommend renewing a license in light of some pretty alarming behavior.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Alder Johnson?
It's a question for Attorney Kochart, and maybe Chief Davis, if he wants to chime in. At least based on the report that I'm seeing here, this is very fundamentally different, I think, than the previous one that we just talked about. And the reason is because we've already done a quasi-judicial hearing on this one. And at least in this report, I'm not seeing anything new that's being presented. So if we deny this, essentially we're asking the applicant to go through a second quasi-judicial hearing without any change of facts or circumstance. Is that? I know double jeopardy doesn't really apply here, but how many times can we ask anybody to do that? Am I making sense?
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
So, we've been through this process a year ago. This was our recommendation back then. But was that decision on the part of the council made because of a finding of different facts that were presented, or because we were awaiting the outcome of criminal charges related to this case? Because I think that impacts the answer to your question.
Yeah, I certainly can't speak for all members of council, but
if there was a quasi-judicial hearing, or if it was council's finding that the facts as we have outlined them in our recommendation were in error, if council found different facts, then I don't know why we would come back with a recommendation, the same recommendation, and expect council to have a different finding of facts if they've already considered the evidence. As I understand it, in this case, the reason why council made the decision it did was because they were awaiting the outcome of a criminal process that has taken a lot longer probably than anyone anticipated. And I think there is a distinction there. And so had council found this version of facts not to be correct, then we wouldn't have made the same recommendation. The underlying facts have not changed, and so that is why our recommendation has not changed. And, as Attorney Kochart says, I see a difference between the criminal process and council's decision that it needs to make. Those are probably two different standards of proof. And so that's why I can't give you a different recommendation, because the facts have not been refuted.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Yeah, totally appreciate that, Chief. And I think you're spot on, right, with that. That makes sense to me. Maybe more the question more so for you perhaps would be, have there been any other police calls or incidents that are not listed on this report.
No, there may have been calls there. I know the owner made a comment about making a call for service, but we're not going to consider them needing police service all by itself as being a problem with a liquor license renewal. They sometimes bars need police service through no fault of their own. But no, we don't have anything else since then to add to the record here. It's just our position, and my position is, again, with all due respect to our business owner, who I know is trying to run a business in our city. Just given this incident, this is pretty troubling from my perspective, and speaks to a level of risk with renewing the license for this establishment that I can't in good conscience recommend this. But that's our recommendation. Obviously, it's council's decision ultimately.
Sure, and I fully appreciate why you wouldn't change your recommendation and why you're making your recommendation. I do recall a piece of the conversation. I didn't go back and rewatch the video, but I do recall a piece of that conversation was around the fact that the charges hadn't been adjudicated. Clearly, that's still the case for a variety of reasons here. So to me, it kind of goes back then maybe more to Attorney Kochart, because as Chief referenced findings of fact and conclusion. Unfortunately, I don't have that in front of me, so I don't have it to refer back to. But as Chief alluded to, if nothing, has anything substantially changed there from what council adopted, I don't know the answer to that. And so I'm struggling with this one a little bit. I don't know, Attorney Kochart, if you could walk us through that again. If we're kind of in uncharted territories here, I'm not familiar with something like this ever happening before, where essentially you have the risk or prospect of two quasi-judicial hearings on the same infraction without anything happening in between.
So I can offer a clarification on that. I'm looking at the record, and it's going to take me 1 second to confirm, but I don't actually think the non-renewal was approved, so we never proceeded to a quasi-judicial hearing, if I remember correctly. And I'm furiously cruising back through Civic Clerk.
Was that
because I wouldn't have been at the council meeting, but it came up as a non-renewal, and I don't recall exactly the comments at council because I'd have to look back at the recording, but it wasn't, the vote wasn't to non-renew, so there was no quasi-judicial hearing to my understanding. And in
Okay.
1 second I can absolutely confirm that, but that's what I'm seeing based on the agenda.
Yeah, and that would certainly be an important distinction. I guess for some reason in my mind I was thinking it was a
Just have to look at the
revocation
minutes.
hearing, but maybe that was not the case.
Alder Morgan.
My recall on that is we did it in open session here. We did not go into closed session, I know. And Alder Galvin brought up the point that he had not been actually charged with anything. He had been charged but not convicted.
Mhm.
And it was approved that night. I was the only vote no.
Thanks, Alder. Anything else on this question? We still don't have a motion. Alder Eck.
So I just want to clarify because in looking at the agenda packet, I see the information about the one incident, and I just wondered, were there any other charges since then?
No.
Thank you.
Yeah, Attorney Kochart.
Sure. I'm sorry, I just got to the minutes. Took me a second. So there was a motion, a number of things proceeding on the floor, and it was the renewal was actually granted, but it was conditioned upon the requirement to submit an abatement plan prior to the renewal being granted. And I believe that motion was approved as amended. So the renewal was granted with the condition that an abatement plan be submitted. And again, I think that abatement plan and other things are referenced in that memo, but that was the condition upon which it was renewed last year.
Thanks, Attorney.
Mm-hmm.
Looking for a motion?
I'm gonna make a motion to
Alder Johnson.
Thank you. And make a motion to approve the renewal. And then I would speak to that if there's a second.
Alder Johnson makes a motion to approve the renewal. Seconded by Alder Presley.
Yeah, and I think the thing that I'm struggling with a little bit is nothing seems to have changed in the 12 months. And again, I'm rewinding back my memory, and I think we said, hey, if the charges came through and there was a conviction, that the revocation proceedings are what would then be initiated, that there's a process for that. But to revoke or non-renew someone's license for something that hadn't been adjudicated, right? You know, you're kind of really taking away someone's livelihood and their investment and their assets, and what happens if they come back innocent, right? And I seem to recall that being part of the conversation at the time. You know, the one thing that was kind of alluded to in here that admittedly I'm a little gray on, and that's what happens if there's a settlement hearing and there's a settlement, and that gets into more gray territory. But for me, I'm just struggling a little bit, and the reason I did the approval is because, not because I think police has done anything wrong here. Clearly, they're doing what they're supposed to do. I just think that every person's afforded due process, and this has taken longer than what we'd normally see, but nothing's changed in the last year, so I don't really see a reason why I would change my vote from a year ago.
Alder Hinkfist.
Alder Johnson, I agree, because I do distinctly remember saying that we were going to or allow them to continue and wait and see what happened on the criminal charges. And I understand, Chief, where you're coming from, but I do specifically remember that only because it comes up on a regular basis in my house. So, yep.
Anything else from council? There's a motion and a second to approve the license. All in favor will signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes appear to have it. Board vote has been requested by Alder Prophet. We will do that. This is on approval of the renewal. That passes 8-3. We are now on to report of the Finance Committee. Motion to approve made by Alder Prophet and seconded by Alder DeLee. Any items to be handled separately here? Hearing none. All in favor will say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved. Next is Park Committee. Motion to approve made by Alder DeLee. Seconded by Alder Eck. Items here to be handled separately?
Note I have to abstain on Q1.
That is noted. Thanks, Alder. Any items to be handled separately? Hearing none. All in favor of the report will signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved. Personnel Committee. Motion to approve made by Alder Prophet. Seconded by Alder DeLee. Items here to be handled separately? Hearing none. All in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved. Report of the Traffic, Bicycle, and Pedestrian Commission. Motion to approve made by Alder Stevens. Seconded by Alder Prophet. Items here to be handled separately? Hearing none. All in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that report has been approved. Sustainability Commission. Motion to approve made by Alder Prophet. Seconded by Alder DeLee. Any items here to be handled separately? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. That report has been approved. Next is the informational item, May Municipal Court Report in your packet. Next is resolutions. Alder Prophet makes a motion to suspend the rules and take up items 1 and 3 with one roll call vote. Seconded by Alder Presley. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The rules are suspended. Motion to adopt items 1 and 3 made by Alder Prophet. Seconded by Alder DeLee. Any discussion? We will use the board.
I'm sorry. You may vote.
And that those resolutions are approved unanimously. Lacey, on item 2, what's the appropriate?
Place on file or deny. I think it's the same result.
Alder Eck makes a motion to receive resolution 2, place it on file. Seconded by Alder Stevens. All in favor will say aye. Aye. Oh, do we have? No. Do we need a board vote on that? No. Okay. The ayes have it. That has been received and placed on file. Next up is ordinance's first reading. Motion to suspend the rules made by Alder Johnson. Oh, yeah.
Motion to advance item 1.
Motion to advance item 1 made by Alder Johnson. Seconded by Alder Presley. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And that ordinance has been advanced to a second and final reading. On to item 2, which is an ordinance related to license applications. Alder Profit.
At the request of the clerk's office, given we're getting into busy season here in regards to this ordinance, I'd like to do a first and final.
So that would require a 2/3 vote.
Second.
So that motion has been made by Alder Profit, seconded by Alder Johnson. Any discussion on suspending the rules? Seeing none, all in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The rules are suspended. Motion to adopt made by Alder Profit, seconded by Alder Galvin. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, we will use the board.
You may vote.
And that is adopted unanimously. Next is Committee of the Whole. This is consideration with possible action on the memorandum of understanding with Sea Rice Terminals LLC for the relocation of the coal piles and redevelopment of the Mason Street site, updated and edited from March 4, 2025, approved MOU. On this, Attorney Cochard, anything to note?
So this MOU in concept was, or the MOU itself, there was a March version that was approved by council, and we've made a couple of revisions based on the agreement that was adopted last week, or the term sheet that was adopted by the county board last week, and I've made some updates, and there might be some additional attorney review, so I would ask that it be approved subject to final attorney review, as we don't have final agreement given just the time frame and kind of fast pace to get this in line with the county's actions. I apologize that wasn't in the agenda, so it's not noted on there. Subject to attorney review, I don't believe.
Yeah.
If we could modify that, I'd appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and as I noted in my report, the biggest change is the $2.2 million. So, want the entirety of council to be aware and comfortable with that. Some of the other changes were just because the original MOU was in reference to the RFI process that the county was going through. Obviously, that's now moot, so all those references were removed as well. So, welcome discussion, motions. Alder Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. To provide a little bit of additional perspective on this, again, really appreciate, the mayor and other city staff, Alder Galvin, who were involved in this from the city side. Really, this, at the end of the day, was a deal between, the county and Sea Rice. And city, I think, initially was there really as probably moral support and to keep conversations on track and make sure that we were achieving our objective. As things evolved, it was this recognition that by not putting coal piles on the Pulliam site and combining it with the Fox River Terminal site, there's not enough space there to do both coal piles and the salt. Salt then could be moved to the Pulliam plant site. Coal can be stored on ground, salt cannot. Salt requires a pad. That was not an expense the county had planned for. And so that's why it's very clearly written in here up to 2.2 million, because if it doesn't take that much or something else happens, right, it may not cost that much. So just kind of wanted to provide a little bit of clarity on why we're not just giving a set amount to the project as a whole, and why it's really kind of tied to that piece of it. And our hope is, of course, that the county will, come back with engineering and construction costs that are under budget. Although given the trend of things these days, I don't, who knows? I don't want to speculate on that just yet, but I just wanted to provide some context there. So wholeheartedly support what we've done here. I think this is the best path forward for the, not only to achieve this long-term goal, but also for the city to really participate in a meaningful way that addresses our primary concern that, quite frankly, isn't the primary concern of the county. The county's primary concern is port expansion. Ours was relocation of coal. So this, to me, felt like a really good compromise that the mayor and I talked about, and sincerely hope that all of you see the wisdom of being an active participant in this to hopefully relocate these out of downtown.
Thanks, Alder. Thanks for that context, and again the work on the whole deal. Other comments or questions? Alderic?
So I really like the part about the city funds shall only be used in the event of an identified project shortfall. So hoping that that is actually the case. I know that they're getting a grant and all of that towards this. So I guess that makes it easier to approve this. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Any other comments? Entertain a motion. Yes. Motion to approve made by Alder Johnson. Again, subject to a final attorney review. Seconded by Alder DeLee. All in favor will say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and that item has been approved. Next up, we have presentations by interested persons to fill Alder vacancy, District 8. Attorney Kochert on that.
Yeah, so the first process is, I'm sorry, I just want to point out there's two separate items here. I would suggest that we vote on, or make a motion and vote on the process by appointing them under the next item. Here is just the presentations, which if you'll note that we prescribed a process of 10 minutes. If you'd like to adjust that, we certainly can. But that's what we had notified applicants of. And
okay.
There's more from the clerk on that.
Great. So as Attorney Kochert said, our applicants will have 10 minutes to present to our council unless folks want to change those parameters, but if not, that's what we will do. So we have these listed out with Jim Ritterbusch, Mark Anderson, and Megan Borchardt. So we will go to Mr. Ritterbusch first, and applicants can just approach the podium and offer their presentations from there.
Their presentation.
Oh, okay. The clerk was saying that you might have a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Okay. And there it is.
Good evening, Council. Look forward to giving my presentation. I'm a very community activist. I know most of you. I've been in contact with you with either email, phone call, whatever it is. My name is Jim Ritterbusch. I don't know how you're clicking this over.
You should just be able to use the arrows, I think.
Okay.
Arrows right there should work for you.
Okay. So yeah, I'm a lifelong resident. I've lived in Green Bay my whole life. I always say, and I introduce myself as a Green Bay Packer because I work at JBS Meatpacking. But I bleed green and gold. I'm a lifelong resident. I've lived in the same house for 50 years. Bought it from my parents. My dad retired from the city of Green Bay Street Department. I graduated Green Bay West in 1980. Proud West High graduate. I've worked at JBS for a little over 40 years. I've been a labor liaison for 14 years, which I think can help me in this position, as I'm a problem solver in the plant. I also deal with about 32 different minorities and 16 different languages. So I look forward to working with the council to, help with bringing people together. I'm a community volunteer. I'm proud of my city. I'm proud of my city and care about my neighbors. Green Bay has been good to me and my family. I want every person that lives here to have the same experience that I had. I want young people to stay, raise their families, new residents, businesses to stay here. That's what we're all here for, right? I believe in council plays an important role in the success of our city and residents, and I want to be part of that. I was thinking today, I'm the only guy I know in the city that's taken on a 40-year incumbent and a 20-year incumbent. And thanks for Chris Murray for his service. I appreciate what he's done. Why am I qualified? I said I've lived here for 60 years. I regularly attend council meetings. Sometimes there's hot topics on workers' rights or whatever. I'm here. I regularly attend council meetings. I serve committees and boards that address the city needs. I was proud to be part of the JBS development. I was a stakeholder for JBS workers. And I'm very proud that I was part of that. It was an awesome experience. I served on the Economic Development Authority when it was there. I was on that for about a year. Very interesting to see how how government works in the city. I'm also on the Labor Council Community Service Committee, which we do a diaper drive, a blanket drive. We know what we need in our community. So that's why I comes from the heart. I'm also vice chair of Green Bay Neighborhoods. I'm president of the Marquette Park Neighborhood Association for my 15th year out of 17 years of a neighborhood association. I often help other neighbors with other neighborhood associations that are having problems. I'll go help troubleshoot and help them reform or form new neighborhoods. I'm comfortable working with people of all economic, social, and political culture backgrounds, which I am. I can talk to anybody. I don't care what political spectrum you're on. I respect your opinion, and hopefully you respect mine. And I like working to solve the problems for the city of Green Bay. Primary duties, I know attend council meetings, participate in committee meetings, understand the issues facing my district and the city. I know the last meeting I was at, I came in with an attitude that I heard about some development on the east side, and I kind of formed an opinion. But as I sat here and I listened to people talk, my opinion changed. So that's what you got to do. You got to be open-minded. And I am open-minded. I will represent my constituents on council, and I'll represent the city to the best of my ability. I like to help constituents when they need it. Opportunities and challenges. We've had speeding issues on 9th Street. I'd like to, do a study, help rectify the problems. Quick trip development on Mason and Gross Avenue. I took part in that also with Brian Johnson and Alder Weary. Development and affordable housing is one of my things that I like to see, and I ran my campaign last time on, talked a lot about. Sometimes I think we need to remove some of the red tape for development in Green Bay. And I'm not the expert on it. I know there's reasons why there's rules and regulation, but it just seems like all the cities around us are building up and we're kind of lagging. I like to expand our identity, keep young people, including minorities, communities, attract new residents and businesses. Like I said, I work with a lot of minorities. I like to bring them together so that we're all at the table. And I'd like to support the city workers. Like I said, my dad was a city worker. He retired from here. And I still am in touch with a lot of guys that work for the city. Community service. This is just a touch. I did send all the alders an email with all the community service. This is just kind of scratching the surface of what I do. I'm Green Bay Neighborhoods Vice Chair, Marquette Park Neighborhood Association President. Like I said, a redevelopment authority member, which unfortunately is not there anymore. Colburn Pool Committee member. I was actually part of that with Chris Weary. I helped raise $250,000 from the Ho Chunk Indians. I showed up at a meeting, neighborhood meeting. Chris didn't show up. I sold myself. I got $250,000 for the Ho Chunks for Colburn Pool. That was cool. But I'm not here for the bragging rights. It's just, that's what you do. The community, different things I'm involved in the community. I'm a United Way board member, so I learn a lot about, we need daycare, we need housing, we need diapers, we need blankets, we need food. I'm also on Greater Green Bay Labor Council Community Service Program, and that's the ones that we partner with the United Way to diaper drive and blanket drive. And we also do food drives. I'm also a 22 gallons, and I need 2 pints. I'll have 23 gallons of blood I gave. So, like I said, this comes from my heart. That's why I want to be part of this committee, and I really look forward to working with you. I do have some references. Randy Scannell wrote me one, and then Patrick Evans, and also the one that's not showing on here is Robin Davis. So that's my presentation, and I really look forward to working with you, ladies and gentlemen, and moving our city forward.
Thanks so much for your presentation, Mr. Ritterbusch, and your interest in serving the city. Do we have questions from our council? Alder Johnson?
Yeah, maybe just a question for Attorney Kochar. You had sent over the list of 5 questions here and because I couldn't make personnel committee, I apologize. I didn't quite understand the direction coming out of that committee. Were these questions all going to be asked of each candidate, and then was that the intent of the committee?
Yes, so I would suggest you can either listen to all three presentations and then ask questions, or you could do the questions after each candidate. It's really
Sure.
the council's choice.
And kind of what I was thinking, and I'll just kind of toss this up, and if heads nod and they're okay, my fear is if we ask these same 5 questions of Jim, then the next one, then the next one, that it kind of puts some folks at an advantage or disadvantage, right? So maybe we go through all the presentations and then we put all 3 up there and we stagger like who goes first on each question, if that seems like fair and okay. Yeah, I would make a motion that that's how we handle the questions.
I know I tried to put most of my information are the questions that were asked. So
Yeah, these are different. Sorry.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Rudebush. Alder Johnson makes that motion, seconded by Alder Eck, as far as questions are concerned. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Next, we will move along to Mr. Mark Anderson.
Hello, I'm Mark Anderson. I live at 1063 Shadow Lane in District 8. I appreciate, Mayor, for your time, Council for your time to address this as I'm applying for the District 8 aldermanship. I'm entering this on behalf of my neighbors. When Chris announced that he was departing, I really didn't look at this, but my neighbors were coming to me. They were encouraging me. They were saying, hey, Mark, you got to take Chris's position. You got to take Chris's alderman position. And a lot of this has to do what I've done in community service. I used to be the co-founder and past president for several years of the Lombardi Neighborhood Association, which at the time was one of the best associations that we had. And it was led by me. We did a lot of things, a lot of projects throughout the community. Some of the issues that we had at the time were parking issues with the renovation of Lambeau Field, the rest center, the entertainment district that was being in Ashwaubenon. We had parking and traffic issues in the neighborhood. We addressed that with committees and councils and got a lot of that rectified. Then along came a lot of the short-term rentals that we had a nightmare with. We had a lot of neighbors, for one reason or another, liked them, didn't like them. One example would be some of the jealousy. You know, somebody could sell their house 3-4 times the value. The guy across the street, why not me? Why isn't anybody knocking on my door? So they hated it. But we had a lot of meetings through the zoning several times. And even when some of the residents would come, we had to go back to zoning because they were addressed just specifically individual ones. So there was a lot of times we had to do that. I know eventually, I think the state stepped in with their ordinance or statute that allowed these to persist. But otherwise, there were a lot of rules that the council was changing as it progressed along. During my time as president of the Lombardi Neighborhood Association, Beaumont School had a problem. They had like a PTO, it was called Beaumont Parent Teacher Network. They had a problem with their little board. They disbanded. I don't know if it was infighting or what, but they actually came to me and said, hey, Mark, you're doing such a great job with this Lombardi Neighborhood Association. The parents and stuff have actually reached out to the school, asked me to step in, reorganize them for a couple of years, got them some traction with their board, kind of mentored them as along, and they took off. While I was president of the Lombardi Neighborhood Association, I served on the Mayor's Neighborhood Leadership Board, which we had a lot of networking with a lot of the new neighborhood associations who come along. I know it was one of the Jim Schmidt's big initiative, which I thought was great. You bring a lot of these neighborhoods, get them together. Everybody's got a few different issues. Not this council, but one of the councils also nominated me and appointed me to serve on the stadium board, which I was a great honor serving with the Packers, PMI, you know, looking for different development, different tourism. So I was on that council for about 2 years, a 2-year term, and it was nearing the end of the term. I know when the tax money was coming all up and everything was going to go, so the term ended. A couple issues that I have in District 8 with the neighbors. Like I said, it was the short-term rentals that we have. Are they a problem? I don't think they're a problem as much anymore. I think they're a lot more controlled, especially with the licensing and regulations that have been put in place by the city. Thank you. I know a lot of times, even after I've been out of the neighborhood association, I've still gone to zoning meetings and kind of addressed this thing. So I've gone to a lot of committee meetings, you know, not posing as president, but posing as a resident of District 8. It's kind of funny when I shouldn't say funny, but we have issues where we're addressing short-term housing, or not short-term, but the absence of affordable housing, I guess you would say. And in our neighborhood, we have, I think the latest was like 84 short-term rentals. These houses aren't rented most of the year. Yet we got people looking for housing. I just kind of find it ironic in a way. And I know I don't know the number across the whole city. I think it's around 200 or so of these short-term rentals. I don't know if there's an issue that can somehow address this to some degree. But I just find it kind of ironic in that we let these short-term rentals begin, and yet we got people knocking on the door. We got homeless people sitting in places. I don't have answers, but that's something that could be somehow addressed and interacted with some degree. Parking, I don't know if the parking director is here or not, but I know we have a couple of neighbors with these short-term rentals. There's a lot of overnight parking on the weekends, especially because they don't have big enough driveways, yet they have 4 or 5 vehicles. And I know the city does go up there and ticket them. And I was kind of wondering, why not just give these residential homes, these short-term rentals, somehow a parking permit where we don't even have to go ticket them, and say, hey, city, every time you have somebody, we're going to charge you an extra $75, $100, park them on the street. I don't know if that's an answer either, because I know why the police department wants those streets vacated, So, but that could be bringing in the short-term revenue in that. So, they said, I kind of got out of the civil service area around 2009, 2011, because I had a great opportunity for personal growth. I took a great job managing a transportation department for a food service company in Shawano. I oversaw like 62 drivers, 4 supervisors, 4 admin personnel. And I'll tell you, they dumped a dump truck of money in front of me. Hey, Mark, we need you. We need your leadership to make this thing work. And I said, fine. So I backed away from a lot of the services I did do because I didn't want to do it, I guess you would say, half-assed. If I'm not going to just put myself into something fully, I'm not going to put it into it. I always made myself available to any, hey, just give me a call. I could help out like any board, any committee or anything like that. That'd be great. But with my new job at the time out in Shawano, there was a lot of travel, a lot of late nights, a lot of weekends, and I just couldn't commit fully to a lot of the things I did. And so that's why I'm kind of back here. The neighbors seen this opportunity. And actually, I used to go to school with Jim, just if anybody's got any questions. I was a grade older than him, a little smarter and stuff. But yeah, so yeah, me and Jim kind of, I wouldn't say hung around the same crow. We knew each other. And but that's why I want to kind of get back into this on behalf of the neighbors, the neighborhood group. And they kind of called me and said, Mark, we'd like to get back on here. I'm a guy who's going to work with you. When I was on the president of the neighborhood association, I didn't want any personal agendas. We stayed neutral in everything. I wanted to hear both sides, the pros and cons. I love to hear the other side of the argument. That's how you grow. That's how you make a better decision on something. And I like Chris Weary for the fact that for the 20 years that he was with us, I've always respected him, because anytime we needed some service or come to our meetings or I had a question, he always got back to me. Did we see eye to eye and everything politically? No. But I could work with him. I could get answers. I could communicate with him. And he would give us a lot of leadership of, where to go, whether we were in the neighborhood association or if a lot of my neighbors are asking questions. I said, well, let me get a hold of Chris and see which direction we got to go in. So in that aspect, I like working with Chris. He always got back to me. And I do appreciate Chris's 20 plus years of service as alderman. That's very commendable in my thing. I just want to kind of close here. As I sent everybody kind of a short resume that I had, some of my experience and stuff, you'll note on there I ran for mayor twice in my life. Back in 87 and back in 2003. 2003 was the first time Jim Schmidt was running for mayor, which kind of led to a butterfly effect. Shortly after that, I became with the Lombardi Neighbors Association. It opened up a lot of opportunity. I didn't expect that to happen, but it did, and I took advantage of it. Opened up a lot more for me to get in committees and knowing how this all works. Like I said, I've been out of practice a little bit. Not that I can't get back in and learn. But the one on 87 was quite unique. I know on the primary night, I lost, took last place. And we had a campaign party at the bar on Broadway. Bar was packed on Tuesday night. And it was Tom Murphy and Dwayne Gay from TV 11 that came in. Tom Murphy kind of cornered me off a little after 9 o'clock in the corner of the bar, and he's talking to me. And he goes, Mark, I want to get a couple comments about the election. And I said, well, Tom, I don't even know if I won. I don't even know what happened. But he's got the numbers. And Tom Murphy, you don't know, is the long-term editor for the Green Bay Press-Gazette. Covered a lot of elections. And so he sits me in the corner of the bar and he goes, well, here's where you got, I think it was a little over 700 votes. I think, the other guy, the other 4 people he's run against, Mayor Sam Halloween, Guy Zima, Don Ingabus, and Henry Atkinson. And I said, 700 votes. Thought I'd be doing a little better than that because my campaign worked hard. And he's looking at me, he's just saying, Mark, I'm going to tell you what. You were 26 years old. You have no political experience. You had no really financial backing. You never ran a campaign before. He said, you should be very impressed. He said, what you accomplished is unbelievable. He said, you figure your family, your friends, co-workers, he said, maybe 300, 350 votes. He said, there's 400 people out there that think you can run a city better than 4 long entrenched people. And that gave me the drive and the passion. And that's why I kind of come to you guys. I still have that drive and that passion, and I want to do it again. So, I was very excited about that comment. It kind of always stayed with me. And that's kind of where I'm going to leave it. Any questions from anybody?
I think we'll get to the questions after everyone.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.
Sir. Appreciate it. All right. Last but not least, we have Ms. Megan Borchardt.
Thank you. My name is Megan Borchardt. I live at 1146 9th Street. I'm a Brown County Board Supervisor for District 8 and have served for the last 7 years. I've lived in the district for 14 years and I've lived on the corner of 9th and Oneida. I grew up in Alloway and attended Southwest High School and graduated in 99. I then attended UW Superior with an interest in communicating arts. I came back to the Green Bay area to be closer to my family, which still lives here in Brown County. The reason I ran for office was because I had a family friend who fell through the cracks of our mental health system. Josh was ultimately put into a care facility where he couldn't hurt himself or others. This was not an easy decision, but it was necessary. Advocating for him for over a year took a lot of time, but it was worth every moment. Caring for others and their issues while guiding them through services offered by the county or the city is truly important and a great public service that I'm able to give. I've served on a number of committees and boards, such as the ADRC board. I served for 6 years. That was one of my favorite boards to sit on. If you ever get a chance, please do so if you're asked. The Board of Health and Brown County Community Gardens. I currently sit on the Health and Human Services Committee for Brown County and the Board of Health. I also have served for the last 7 years for our Veterans Tailgate Party that we do every December, and rounding up funds for that to show our appreciation by both the board members and our county exec, how much we care about our vets. I'm also involved with veteran services outside of the county. The issues I believe I'm able to help move forward are speeding, which is an issue on 9th and Oneida. I see it every night and I hear it most weekends because I like to have my windows open during the summers. And not only in my district, but across the city. I see it on Ashland and even on the east side. I drive most days for my job around the city, servicing our customers. The issues I see with massage parlors is another one that I feel very strongly about and would like to work with the council members on. The challenges are the challenges and difficulty decisions of balancing the needs of my districts and the needs of the city are crucial to being an effective alder. I feel strongly about the economic development as a driver for our tax base while listening to constituents' needs. I know as an alder, my first responsibility is to my constituents and my second is to the city. I know from working on the Board of Supervisors, it's important to work with everyone and understand their perspectives and come prepared to the meetings. One thing I really appreciate about the city is the advancement in technology to watch and participate over Zoom. This has been something I have been pushing for at the county level for the last 7 years. I hope to see it come to fruition soon. I was happy and excited to see the deal with the city, the county, and Sea Rice happen. The constituents in my district on both sides of the river wanted to see the coal piles move, and I'm happy that they will be soon. Thank you to those members of city council members, the mayor, for your help in this historic project, and congratulations tonight on moving that forward. Thank you.
Thanks for your presentation. All right, back to council. It's question time. Yeah, maybe they could sit. Yeah, maybe our candidates would like to sit in that front row right behind the lectern here. And then we can kind of call people up one by one. Want to do like reverse order?
So we have a couple of questions that were prepared here for by staff, and then I think if other council members have things they'd like to ask, they'll have that opportunity. 3 questions that are more qualifying questions, and then 5 that are more sort of subject matter questions. So Jim, I'll start with you first, just because you went first. And for these 3, because they're qualifying, I will just ask all 3. Do you anticipate any conflicts of interest that could arise if you were appointed to Common Council? And if so, how would you intend to handle those conflicts?
I don't see any conflicts coming, and if there was something that popped up, I would step back and, not vote on something that would be in my interest, maybe United Way or, I don't know what would be any conflict.
Okay. Question number 2, what is your availability for Common Council and committee meetings that are typically scheduled during the evening, Monday through Thursday? Note that alderpersons are often expected to attend 4 to 6 council and committee meetings per month.
I have no problem with them. Other than next week, I'll be out of town for a packing house conference and vacation. But otherwise, I'm open. I mean, I do have neighborhood meetings, but I will shift my schedule around to be part of this organization anytime. And if you look at any of the boards I've been on, I got like 99% participation rate. I don't miss meetings unless I'm out of town.
Okay. And then the third question, if appointed to Common Council, would it be your intention to run for election in 2026?
Yes, it would. I worked my butt off in 2024. And if I'm given the opportunity to sit on this council, yes, I would definitely run.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Ritterbusch. We'll invite Mr. Anderson up. Same 3 questions. The first around conflicts of interest, and how would you intend to handle those?
Again, I see no conflicts of interest that I know of. If they would come up, I would abstain or vote, or rescue myself, I guess you would say, from that particular situation or policy.
Okay. And your availability to attend Common Council meetings and committee meetings, 4 to 6?
I would be able to do them. That's one thing, getting into this with my neighbors encouraging me. I want to check with my family. I want to check with my employer. Right now, I'm kind of in a part-time, semi-retired mode. So that's why I kind of came with this opportunity. So I do have evenings off, nights off, whatever I need. My employer with the civic service, he said, go for it. He's really supportive of me in that. So I wouldn't have a problem meeting any needs of the councils or committees.
Okay. And then the third question, do you intend to run, if appointed, in 2026?
I intend to run either way.
Okay. Ms. Borchert. Same 3 questions. If you have a conflict of interest, how would you intend to handle it?
I don't see a conflict of interest. If there was a conflict of interest, I would recuse myself.
Okay. Question 2, are you able to attend the meetings 4 to 6 per month?
Yes.
And question 3, is it your intention to run in 2026?
Yes.
Okay. Then what I'll do is, just in the spirit of rotating, Mr. Anderson, I'll invite you back up. Sure. And then there are 5 questions that have been prepared that are sort of intended to hit at the major departments within the city. So the first question, what is your approach to funding and prioritizing roads and other infrastructure projects?
I think, first of all, when we do the funding, we got to find where the funds come from. I've also looked at, I should say looked at, find a way to create other revenue for the city, not new taxes, new fees, but how do we get new revenue? One example I used to use years ago when I ran for mayor was Bay Beach. Bay Beach was a moneymaker for the city of Green Bay. I know when Jim Schmidt put in Zip and Pippin, there was a lot of criticism, but yet that paid for itself in 1 year. Could you advance that into like a larger water park, additional rides? You want to make sure you're going to create revenue with that. Help revenue offset the taxes. You have better products, better services, better equipment, things like that. So I would also prioritize what are the needs. Develop a prioritize. What roads need to be repaired first? What equipment needs to be replaced first? Things in that order.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and Ms. Borchert, if you could come up next. And if you, Mr. Anderson, you did a great job on this without getting direction, but we're going to limit responses to about a minute.
Okay.
So Ms. Borchert, same question. What is your approach to funding and prioritizing roads and other infrastructure projects?
I know that at the county level, we've looked at funding through grants. So if there are grants available, looking at that. If there are other revenue streams that other communities might be finding help with. I know I attend a lot of different meetings and hear things from other communities outside of the state, along within the state. If we can copy what they're doing that is working for them, that's another way that I would look at that. And prioritizing roads, pretty much the same answer that was given already. Looking at what needs to be done first and prioritizing that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ritterbusch? What is your approach to funding and prioritizing roads and other infrastructure projects?
I think funding, we need to look to our state legislators to get some more tax dollars into the city to help fund roads. That's number one priority that I'd like to see. I think the priorities are already set. You have a public works department that's already got a schedule of roads that need to be fixed, and hopefully Shawano Avenue, unfortunately, that's a state highway. That's the problem, but they already know what needs to be fixed. I'm lucky my street got fixed 2 years ago. So, but the main thing is to get some revenue from the state, county, and the city to get things done.
Ms. Borchert, I'll just say the question one time, and the others, if you remember it, if you need it repeated, just let me know, just for expediency's sake. Second question, tell us about your views on economic growth in the city and your 5 to 10 year outlook for the city.
I would like to see a lot of economic development happen. I know there is economic development happening currently in the downtown area and growth within businesses. Also looking to attract a variety of different businesses to the area. To do that, we need to broaden the spectrum of what we can offer here. So that's in the next 5 to 10 years. I would hope to see a boom.
Mr. Ritterbusch?
It's a good subject. I attended a meeting at Beaumont School or Beaumont Park, which had to do with economic development, brought all the neighbors together and asked them what they'd like to see. I don't remember what the exact name of the meeting was, but I participated in that. And that's a strategy to mapping out what neighbors want to see, what do they want to build in the area and the open areas. So that's a plan that I think that I would love to work with the city to execute.
And Mr. Anderson?
What I'd like to see when the city goes for economic development, I would like them to try to get something unusual, something unique to Green Bay, something that would mirror like Lambeau Field. We have that. We don't want a cookie cutter thing that every Appleton, Oshkosh, find let's bring in either some business, some type of restaurants, things like that are unusual. That's going to draw curiosity to the neighborhood and to the city in that. That was what I would look for economic development in that way.
Thank you. Mr. Ritterbusch. One of the main duties of an alder person is helping to establish the city's annual budget. What would be your 3 main priorities for the 2026 city budget, and how would you manage those priorities with the other 11 alderpersons?
Good question. Well, roads are probably priority. Like that's what all the constituents, I'm sure, with all the alderpersons here is, roads are one of the top ones. Yeah, I don't really know how to answer the rest of it. Thank you.
Mr. Anderson?
Could you repeat the question, Mr. Johnson?
One of the main duties of an alderperson is helping to establish the city's annual budget. What would be your 3 main priorities for the 2026 city budget, and how would you manage those priorities with the other 11 alderpersons?
Well, first off, I would look at what needs and priorities are, or needs and wants, I should say. What do we really need? What do we have? One of the things would be tax cuts. Everybody complains about taxes. It always looks good on us if we can cut taxes a little bit, even a couple of dollars. Some of the things I think would be addressing short-term or the housing, the homeless. We have a lot of that around the city, and it's not nice to seeing people out there anyway. But find a way, actually find the root causes of why those people are like that. Then regular like roads, sidewalks, thing that would need to be done, and then economic development, because if we can raise the revenue through economic development, we can do a lot more in the city. So those would be like the 3 priorities I would look at.
Okay, Ms. Borchert.
Thank you. I would actually take a look at our past budgets, probably going back to the last 3 years and see what has been done, what could be done further in those budgets. And I'd also sit down with all of you and have conversations on what you would like to do and how I can help you achieve your goals and how you can help me achieve mine.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Anderson. Tell us about your views on public safety in the city, public safety including police and fire.
Public safety, I think the public safety is fine. I know every city's got issues. Thank God I never run in the cop. But from what I understand of that, our police department is fine, fire department is fine. Now, if they have additional needs that I'm not aware of, I pretty much would love them to bring it to the council so we can meet those needs, discuss them. I think the fire department, being a veteran myself, with police department, fire departments, those guys are the front lines of everything you need. I know that a lot of times, like a fire department is very expensive, but the best insurance policy, because if something's going wrong at your house or something, you hope those guys are there. And if they come in mass force, even the better. So,
thank you. Ms. Borchert?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yep. Tell us about your views on public safety in the city, which includes police and fire.
I currently think that they're doing a great job. I would like to see more police enforcement with speeding. I know that my neighbors have asked, and I've asked for police to sit on 9th or on Oneida or anywhere across the city of Green Bay and just watch what could be done to work with them together to bring down some of those bad actors that are out there. Fire, I have no issues with. So,
and Mr. Ritterbusch.
I take pride in our police and fire. Look at the NFL draft. What does that tell you right there? Our police and fire did their job better than any city in the United States for a draft. So that's I give kudos to them. And I also, knowing representing unions, police and fire unions, I respect their collective bargaining to bargain their wages and benefits. So, but I talk all the time. I have people that talked about how terrible the draft was going to be and how crime was going to be. Proof is there that they do a great job.
Thank you. And for the benefit of the public, these questions, and there's only one left, but these were not provided to candidates in advance. So they are reacting on the floor. And these were drafted by Attorney Kochert with some input around the 5 areas of focus. So I think we're on Ms. Borchert, right? Okay, this is the fifth and final question, and of course, if other alders have questions, that would be the time to do that. So, question 5: the city has more than 60 parks and recreational facilities for use by the public. What are your views on quality of life in the city, providing recreational opportunities and managing green spaces?
I think parks bring people together and really help define the community. It's a place to meet, it's a place to grow, it's a place to play. And if you look at other communities, parks are really important. I'd like to continue to grow our parks and our green spaces where we can, and making our city even more attractive to those that want to move here and live and play here.
Mr. Ritterbusch?
Wish I had a sticker that says "I heart Green Bay Parks" that I see everywhere. I grew up in Marquette Park, played 4 years of football. I think we have one of the best park systems in the city, and I would look forward to being on the Parks Committee and continuing to grow that so that playgrounds are kept up and football fields, soccer fields. But I think we have one of the best park departments in the area for sure.
And Mr. Anderson?
Yes, I don't know if I visited every park in the city, but I've been to several of them, and I do like how they're very well upkept, whether it be through the forestry department, parks department. I think they're well groomed, well clean. I've never seen a lot of garbage or anything around, and I've always liked when we had our Lombardi Fest with our neighborhood association, getting permits and getting the response from the parks department for any help, getting picnic tables in, anything else we need. Great support from them. So I've always liked them. If we can put more green space out there, if we have the availability, especially like on the river waterways or something like that, is always gives people a little bit of calm, a little bit of ease when they kind of visit those areas and stuff. So.
All right. Well, thanks again to our candidates for answers to those questions there. Open it up, I think, for general questions from our council. If you had specific ones for individual candidates to pose, we'll just go there. Alder Hutchison.
You guys have a lot of guts. I appreciate all three of you coming up and doing what you just did. Takes a lot of guts, and I can see where you came from. You all came from a service background, and I couldn't do what you just did. So I appreciate it.
You got elected. Alder.
Well, yeah, whatever. So thank you, and it's appreciated that all three of you came forward and did this. Now you give us a hard decision to make. So one thing, I have a question regarding city staff, because sitting behind us are the leaders of city staff, but there's city staff all across the city working every day. I would just like a simple statement of what your views are of city staff. And I ask that from a background. I worked for the city of West Bend in the 80s as assistant city engineer, and I acquired a definite opinion about city staff, and I'd like to hear yours. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder. I'm not sure which order we left things in. Sure, go ahead.
First of all, I was a United States Army paratrooper jumping out of planes in the middle of the night to go hunt people. I don't fear anything. So being up here is all right. City staff. I've never had an issue with city staff. They've been all more than welcoming. If they didn't have an answer, they directed me where I had to go. So I think the staff, from my experience, is very well trained, very knowledgeable. I see Cheryl here from the old neighborhood days. If we had any question with our neighborhood association, Cheryl was right there. So I've never, ever ran into any situation with any staff member that I couldn't get an answer or get helpful. So I really appreciate what the city does for us.
Again, an A. Excellent. Anytime I've had problems in the neighborhood association, like I say, Cheryl, Bill came over when we had the little rat problem on the west side. Gave me the name Ratman Ritter because I was trapping a lot of rats and my yard was clean. So, but I give kudos to the city staff. Anybody I ever call, they take care of take care of everything. And like I said, I dealt with Alderman Weary and Zima, and whenever I called them, they were always very, take care of things. Thank you.
I would say that you get an A+ for city staff. City staff is the heart of the city. They make things run, and we rely on their opinions and their decisions to make the decisions we make here. So they're a vital part of what we would be doing here. And you may not always agree with them, but I think that they work hard at what they do, and sometimes they're underappreciated. So I just want to say thank you for all your hard work.
Any other questions from council? Alder Presley, and then Alder Galvin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have two questions that I'd like to ask to all three candidates. First kind of goes off what Alder Hutchison had brought up. When we have items that come before us, they usually come with a recommendation from staff. What would it take for you to diverge from a staff recommendation? So if we have something comes before you and staff is recommending one thing, what considerations are you putting in that would lead you to potentially diverge from staff?
I think if the staff would recommend one thing and we would hear from the citizens themselves something different, or something different would bring to light that would maybe go against or maybe rub the wrong way, then I would look at it a different way. Like I said, I'd like to get both sides, pro and con. I want to hear both sides throughout to help make a decision, with myself and with the city council. So that's where I'd sit with it.
You definitely always take city staff's opinion, but like he said, you want to listen to the constituents and see what their opinion on it. We're not thinking about this just for ourselves. We're thinking about it for the citizens and our constituents in the city.
As they both said, you want to listen to your constituents. You're here representing them, and then you're representing the city. So that would be the only way that I would maybe diverge. But I'd also most likely want to hold a meeting, whatever the topic is in my district, with those constituents and their concerns, and hear from city staff so that we can work on it together.
All right. Thank you. Second question. This happens all the time, that there are developments or something that we see as vaguely or generally good for the city, that there's pockets of opposition to it within neighborhoods or just within individuals for some reason. How do you approach situations, or how would you approach situations where there's something that is a city good that has opposition?
You got to kind of outweigh the good with the bad. If it's going to help a majority of the city and really benefits fully the city, and we have just maybe a couple small pockets, like you say, resistance, I'd want to work with that resistance to try to help them understand why we're doing what we're doing. There again, listen to both sides. What are their complaints? What are their issues with what we're moving forward? But I'd like to get both sides of them to kind of and educate them. A lot of times when people have a different idea, educating them why we're doing something the way we're doing is enough to appease some people. And they, okay, now I have an understanding what you're trying to do. And that's what I think we have to do. So,
from attending these council meetings, I've got very educated on hearing both sides of the story. Like I said, when I came 2 meetings ago for the development out on the Far East Side, apartments and duplexes and so on and so forth, when I first came in, I was like, that's not cool. But as I sat and listened to the residents and the people in the area and weighed it out, you got to go with what looks best for the city and the residents.
Being an active listener is super important. As both of these gentlemen back here have said, hearing everybody out, that and compromise. When you compromise, not everybody's going to be happy, and that's okay, but everybody gets something. They might not be completely happy with the outcome, but that's life sometimes. You should work with what you have and be an active listener and compromise and come to the table to negotiate. So
thank you.
I think Alder Galvin is up next.
Thank you. I have 2 questions. Thankfully, we haven't had too many huge issues that have been very contentious, but we've had a few. You end up getting emails, text messages, phone calls, social media messages, people grabbing you on the street. Some would be from constituents, some not from your constituents. City staff has input. What would you base your decision on, or how would you go about making a decision on this contentious issue?
Again, I'd like to hear all sides of the story. And I think a lot of times too, when you're approached by people like that, if they're on the, I guess you would say, the negative side of something, I think a lot of explaining, a lot of educating helps a lot of people understand. You calm down the situation, especially if they're kind of getting out of hand. I know people do. Kind of calm down and explain to them why we're doing what we're doing. A lot of times people may not like the answer. When I was on the association and like Mr. Chris Weary, we'd ask him for something. He'd come back, can't do it. I ain't going to have the vote on the council floor. At least I got an answer. I didn't like it. I know that doesn't go for everybody, but I think if you take that kind of temperament to them, that you can appease them a little way. And maybe there's some information that they got that you can find a compromise. Come back and say, hey, let's find a compromise that we can tweak it a little bit. But, overall, I think the majority, if it benefits the city, benefits the citizens, you got to kind of go with it. And you're going to have to deal with things like that, so.
I kind of deal with this on a daily basis at JBS. There's things that pop up all the time that, might not be a city issue, but number one, you have to have thick skin. You got to be able to deal with conflict, and you got to be able to be the middleman. And that's what I do on a daily basis in my job is I'm the middleman. I go between the worker and management, and I try to find resolve for whatever the issues may be. And to me, that's the same thing that you would be doing in that kind of situation.
In the past, county board met in this room. I've heard lots of conflict on touchy subjects. Sat here for 4 hours one night listening to complaints on something that was just being voted on. Not everybody's going to be happy, but also hearing out and being an active listener to those individuals who may not agree with you, hearing what they have to say and why it's important to them, and weighing that out is important. People want to be heard. Most people just want to be heard, whether they agree with you or not, or whether I agree with them or not, is still really important to hear people out.
All right. And then finally, there's a very contentious issue within your district. Every constituent that talks to you tells you that they want you to do A, but you know that B is the correct way to do it. How do you handle this?
That would be kind of an issue and stuff. I guess if everybody in my neighborhood who I represent wants it one way, and that's my constituent base, that's what I'm going for. That's why I'm going to be an alderperson. I'm representing the constituents. And if it goes against what the rest of the council was, I have to represent those people. That's what I'm here for. That's what they would have elected me for. So if I have an overwhelming issue with my neighbors, my neighborhood, and the consensus is, Mark, you need to go this way, and the regular council wants to go the other direction, I will go the other direction, because even though I may be supportive of you, I also have to respect my constituents and their opinion.
Just like that's a good plus of having neighborhood associations, because you can bring people together and see what they want. They're the ones that tell you what they would like to see in their neighborhood or whatever development. So you got to weigh things out, and this isn't about us. This is about the citizens and the residents. That's what it's about. It's not about us. It's about them.
I would agree with what they both said. Hearing out your constituents is your top priority, and then what happens here would be second. I may agree with you again, but hearing out what my constituents want, and that would be the top priority.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Alder. Alder Grant.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we focus a lot on residents and city staff and stuff like that, but the reality is there's 12 of us alders that have to work together. And a lot of times we agree and sometimes we don't. Can you explain how you plan to communicate with fellow alders, treat them in public, on social media, or during a heated debate during a meeting?
I'm going to go first for this time. I have a lot of experience with that. I sit on a board of 26. There's a lot of opinions. I don't agree with everybody all the time on the board of supervisors, but it's important to communicate, making phone calls, sending emails, meeting out for coffee, and hearing what has to be said is super important. And then going and having a beer after the meeting and putting those things aside or breaking bread is super important because we all have feelings. We all need to live together and work together in this community.
If you're part of the team, you have to communicate. That's the biggest thing, and understand that emails, whatever, however you communicate, you have to communicate. It doesn't matter what your political spectrum is, what side you're on. You have to put your heads together and grind it out and decide what's best for everybody.
Yes, I come here with no political agenda whatsoever. It's not me versus them, anything. I'm going to be the most neutral person that you are going to love to work with on either side. So as far as communicating, whatever works best for somebody else. I'm efficient with social media, phone calls, texting, whatever you need, emails. I can do it all. So whatever works for you or for a team, I can communicate that way. So whatever you guys would need, you let me know and I'll make it work for myself. So.
Anyone else with questions? Yeah, Alder Hinkvis.
Thank you, Mayor. For each one of you, what if I was to ask your coworkers or people that you work with or deal with every day, what would your coworkers say about you?
I'll take this one since I'm a workers' right advocate. I'd like to say I deal with a lot of different languages, and I have translators that help me through the different 16 different languages or whatever it is. But I think they would all say that I'm a very fair guy, and if we get in the office, I stand behind them whenever the discipline is, whatever it is. If
Just
they're wrong,
remember they can watch this.
if they're wrong, they're wrong. And I'm going to tell them they're wrong, but we got to follow by rules and regulations that company puts on us. So.
My wife doesn't really know what I do at my job. I don't bring my work home. She knows I go to work, but I'll get, I'll park people on my lawn for Packer games. A lot of them are old employees, places I never even worked before. And they'll hey, Mark, you still live over by Lambeau? Yeah, come on over. Anyway, they'll come and they'll say, hey, your husband was the greatest boss I ever had. Great leader. He's fair. He's honest. He always gave me an answer. I've always learned and always been loved to be mentored by my bosses. And a lot of them that I worked for did that. They brought me into leadership positions, supervisor positions, that I used what they had best and took it. Bad things, I said, I'm not going to do that. So I think a lot of the people that I used to work for, used to work over, used to even work under, would say I have nothing but good things to say about me.
Thank you.
I think the people that I work with would say that I'm organized. I work in a timely manner, putting priorities in order. My employees would say I'm fair. I hear them out. I care about their mental health and their mental wellness and the balance between work and life. And I think it's important to continue educating myself and others with reading. I just read a book called Leaders Eat Last. It's a wonderful read if anybody wants to pick it up. It's based on military and having officers in command and how they are treated in the mess hall and who eats first and who eats last. So I think it's important to show up and be present when you're in a role of leadership.
All right. Anything else from council? Otherwise, I think we'll move along to the next item, which is appointment of alder to fill vacancy in District 8. Attorney Coachart, any guidance on how we might do that?
Yes, so we need to decide on a process, or the council needs to decide on a process, vote on it, and stick to that process. I think the original communication recommended, because this is a usual agenda item, an appointment, that a motion, second, and a vote proceed. But again, you have a couple of options. The most common, again, is to vote until a majority is reached. We need the person, an applicant needs 6 of the 11 votes to be a majority to proceed or to be appointed. So again, a couple of options, but the most common way is to vote by repeated ballot if necessary. Whether you choose to eliminate the first person, if you could, we could have a vote if if one of the applicants receives 6 votes, that could be the final vote, or you could vote and remove the lowest and then vote again. And because there are 11 of you, a second vote is all that should be needed. But again, it's up to the council. So if you have some discussion on it or decision, those are the recommendations.
Alder Johnson.
Yeah, I know in the absence of things that are clearly articulated, if I'm not mistaken, our ordinances call for the use of Robert's Rules of Order. Robert's Rules of Order states that ranked choice voting is the recommended procedure in these instances where there's not where open-ended revoting is not practical. So I would make a motion to. And of course, discussion will follow after this, but I'd make a motion to conduct the first round by ranked choice voting, where every candidate is ranked in their order of preference, 3 being the most preferred, 1 to the least preferred, and that the second round of voting would just be picking one of the final 2 candidates.
I'll second that.
On that, Alder Eck, that was seconded by Alder Galvin.
Can I add an amendment to be by closed ballot?
Attorney Coachart can speak to that. It's not allowed under law.
Yes, that's correct. So you may be familiar with the process of electing a president and vice president, but state law limits closed ballot. So this is to be an open process. Although it may be on paper, it's going to be read aloud.
Okay, thank you.
So on Alder Johnson's motion, questions, comments? No? All right. We'll vote on that then. All in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And that's how we will vote. So we will do that by Alder Prophet.
Yeah, I just have one. I didn't know the time to bring it up, but I just have one point of clarification, and I appreciate all of city staff that entertained me today with lots of phone calls. I just know, after listening to finance, I know we've talked about how many times I listened to that finance meeting and a lot of different questions that were raised about this process. In relation to the nomination papers that were attached in our document, there are 2 candidates that I just had some questions on their documents. One candidate, the election date on all of their papers being 6/6, and one candidate whose 3rd page does not list their address on the bottom portion. I know the answer, but I think it's important, just the scrutiny occasionally that can be under the city in relation to these processes. These documents are important, so I'm just seeking clarification on some irregularities on the nomination papers and what this process tonight, how this differs from a traditional election. So either the clerk or the city attorney who answered me so eloquently today.
Yeah, let's go to Attorney Coachart first.
So just for clarification, just on the process, again, this is an appointment under ordinance, and although we've been sort of guided by state law, we are following city ordinance in the appointment.
Okay. Anything to add, Clerk Jeffers?
So the nomination paper form that was used is a form that we use, that the state actually provides for all elections. The standards for those forms, as you all know, because you've all filled them out, in addition to supervisor board chart, those standards are relatively high. And so when I reviewed the papers, I used those standards. However, those standards what you're about to do does not rise to the level of the standards that I would use if this were an election. So the ordinance does call for 20 verified signatures, validated signatures. And so in terms of the bottom of the paper on Ms. Borchart's and the top of the paper for Mr. Anderson's, in many ways that speaks to some of the signatures, but really you're looking at whether or not each of the candidates have the 20 verified signatures, and they do.
Thanks, Clerk.
Thank
Any
you.
follow-ups on that or any other comments? Do we need to take a bit of a break to construct a ballot, or
we just take a break? That'd be good.
yeah, there's just a note, this is, I understand, what Alder Johnson is driving at. It does sort of complicate our process here. Still, that's the will of council, so we will figure it out. So we'll take a 10-minute break. To order after that little recess. So we do have the motion and the second, and you all supported, obviously, to use ranked choice voting. But just a clarification, it's going to be 1, 2, 3. So your first choice will get a 1, your second choice will get 2, your third choice will get 3. So how it works is each voter's top choice is tallied. A candidate needs a majority to win outright. So if somebody gets the top choice in that first round, then you don't have to go any further down that list of ranking. With 11 voters, obviously the majority threshold is 6 votes. In the scenario that no majority winner is chosen on that first round, the candidate with the fewest first choice votes is eliminated. Voters who selected the eliminated candidate as their first choice have their votes reallocated to their next preferred candidate. The reallocation continues until a candidate surpasses the 6 vote threshold. So the counting is a little bit complicated. The voting for you all is not. So it's 1, 2, 3. Questions on that?
Yeah, can you clarify majority to win outright? So
So
if there's 6 number ones,
yep,
that's
then it's
the majority outright, but there's no accumulation. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the process? Alder Jeffries? Sorry, you were an Alder, right?
Yeah.
Clerk Jeffries.
I was a very long time ago.
Yeah.
So you have 6 pieces of paper in front of you. They are stapled. That is so that they stay together until you rip them apart. Please be sure not to rip them so that they cannot be read. Your names are on each one of those pieces of paper. You have a white, a yellow, a light blue, a pink, a green, and a dark blue. Okay. Okay, so you don't have to write your name on it because, as Attorney Cochart said, this is not a secret ballot. So once you have finished ranking your candidates, you're going to come up and give them to me so that I can then somehow tabulate this, not having done ranked choice voting ever before.
Alder Prophet?
Sorry, one more time. Do you want us to put just 1, 2, 3 on the first one, or do you want us to mark it with an X and give you 3 sheets of paper?
No. So the white ballot is your first ballot.
Oh, so we have 6 just in case we take 6
Correct.
rounds. Got it. Thank you.
Yes, I would suggest the 1, 2, 3 on that first page there. All right, now we vote.
Right here, guys. Right here.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not secret. No worries.
I just folded it.
Oh, I know.
Right. Right. Okay.
Because
No, you did not.
Okay, got it. So I'm glad. Yeah, no problem.
No. Are you abstaining? Why would you need a whole pack? Thank you, Your Honor. So what I'm going to do is to read out everyone's choices and then explain to you the process. Okay? Everyone ready?
Ready.
Okay. Grant, Ritterbusch 3, Anderson 1, Borchardt 2, Hutchison, Ritterbusch 1, Anderson 3, Borchardt 2, Morgan, Ritterbusch 3, Anderson 1, Borchardt 2, Galvin, Ritterbusch 1, Anderson 2, Borchardt 3, Stevens, Ritterbusch 3, Anderson 1, Borchardt 2, Presley, Ritterbusch 1, Anderson 3, Borchardt 2, Profit, Ritterbusch 1, Anderson 2, Borchardt 3, Johnson, Ritterbusch 3, Anderson 1, Borchardt 2, DeLee, Ritterbusch 1, Anderson 3, Borchardt 2, Eck, Ritterbusch 3, Anderson 1, Borchardt 2, Hinkfist, Ritterbusch 1, Anderson 3, Borchardt 2. So I have the slips of paper. As I said, each one of your names are on these slips of paper. This is the first round. So I do have a spreadsheet, essentially, which has the names of the candidates and your aldermanic district numbers. So I recorded each one of those votes in ranked choice. Attorney Kochart made sure that my information was correct, so she checked my work. Then at the bottom of the spreadsheet, I did a count if formula for those of you who love Excel. And so the results are, in the first round, Ritterbusch 6, Anderson 5, Borchardt 0 in terms of people, in terms of the number ones.
All right. So we have an alder, Mr. Jim Ritterbusch. So we will move along to
Oath of office.
yes.
I don't know if you want to be speaker or not. Whatever.
Take your oath first. Then you can speak. Okay? Raise your right hand. I, Jim Ritterbusch.
I, Jim Ritterbusch,
Swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States.
swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States,
Constitution of the State of Wisconsin.
Constitution of the State of Wisconsin.
To add a deity, so help me God. If you choose to add a deity, so help me God.
Oh, and so help me God.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all your support, and I really look forward to working with this council and making it one of the best councils ever, as far as I can say. So thank you.
Well, feel free to take your seat, Mr. Ritterbusch, and if you're so inclined, you can make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I don't think so. Petitions or communications? I don't think so. Yes, motion to adjourn made by Mr. Ritterbusch. Alder Ritterbusch, seconded by Alder Profit. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed nay. The ayes have it. We're adjourned.